Dame Caroline Dinenage is the person who chairs the DCMS committee, has written to TikTok to find out whether or not Russell Brand can be demonetized there. It's a quite extraordinary letter. She's writing to Dr. Theo Bertram, and she also asks what procedures the app has in place to prevent creators from undermining the welfare of victims. I understand part of the impulse there. Channel 4 has just removed shows featuring Russell Brand from its streaming service, from its More 4 streaming service. Again, I understand the idea to for the program, for the production companies to distance themselves from Russell Brand, but at the same time, it's difficult to get away from this trial by media thing. I've drawn the distinction between reputation and criminality, and I think Russell Brand's reputation has taken a hammer blow from which he is unlikely to recover. And looking at reputation, do you want to be connected with this person whose reputation has been so badly soiled? No, you don't. At the same time, I think it's I think it's historically a bad signal to be removing documents, to be removing programs, to be removing statues and all that sort of stuff simply because you don't approve of a particular individual. I think that's a form of censorship which is not wise, though there's a lot of historical precedent for it. I think also the idea of YouTube removing the monetization options, that's YouTube's decision. The BBC is now going to conduct an investigation. The Director General, Tim Davie, has announced a review of Russell Brand's time at the corporation. Well, I hope it's going to look at the use of chauffeur-driven cars, because that seems to be a central feature of the charge sheet. But there is the rather unattractive whiff of a campaign against somebody who is down, and it becomes very difficult to maintain that distinction between somebody whose reputation has been soiled and somebody who is engaged in criminal activity. And so far, the police have not called Russell Brand in for an interview, have not pressed charges, and he must be regarded as innocent until proven guilty. But I think the issue of his reputation is independent of that. There are many people whose reputation is not something that we want to dwell on, although they have not actively committed a criminal act or been prosecuted for a criminal act. And that's the distinction we need to keep in mind. But at the same time, the BBC and Channel 4 are implicated in the stories that are coming out about Russell Brand. And there are also people who are now coming out and saying, as they did with the Philip Schofield story, well, we all knew. We all knew. And because this person was such a big star, he was enabled by the system. And we need to get to a point where that doesn't happen in future. And I think the BBC needs to consider, what is its role in supporting talent? Because that is definitely an important aspect to its role. And maybe that is something that should be farmed up. Maybe that is something that should be managed by independent sources, agents and so on. You read of the teams of people who are around Hollywood stars. Maybe that's the direction we're going in. Because the support which an organisation like the BBC finds itself offering to people like Saville, like Schofield, like Brand, comes to bite them in the backside in the end. And you wonder what justifies sending a taxi to collect a 16-year-old girl from school. Where is the justification for that in the filmmaking, television making process? Difficult. And why was that question not asked at the time when the taxi was booked?